On tonight's episode of Locked on Lightning, the Bolts get absolutely dogged in Ottawa. We talk about that and more, but first, let's play that music.
You're Locked on Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Locked on Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button and subscribe to the channel so you could see my look of absolute disgust. I am recording this just probably 20, 25, maybe a half hour after the game. I just got done recording the Locked On NHL show with my co-host, Chris Masilli. I went a little off on there about the Lightning's embarrassment of a loss. And I was going through my head how I was going to react. And I'm glad I got all the negative feelings out in the open to my national show co-host, because I was really set on coming on this show and yelling and criticizing and maybe a little bit of a splash of meanness. But really, when you look at this game, and we'll get into the whole seriousness of this and you know, the whole burning question, what happens next? What can the Lightning wrangle in this Bronco of a terrible streak that is been going over the last month? But I want to say to everybody, you know, don't get down. Don't be mad. Don't get upset. You know, the end is not near in terms of the Lightning. We're going to be positive. Look at tonight's game with laughter, with a shudder of embarrassment. But the Lightning themselves as players for their performance tonight should be embarrassed, because that was just an absolutely disgraceful outpour of production in Ottawa in what we established on our YouTube channel. Like I said, if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We spoke about in yesterday's episode how important of a game this was for the Lightning to come out and win, not only because you're in the middle of a losing streak. You drop one to the mind. All right, you lose to the Devils on Sunday. Okay, one of the best teams in the league. Shake it off, move on, right? And then you go against the Montreal Canadiens, one of the worst teams in the league, definitely the worst team in the division. All agreed? All agreed. You lose that. All right. Let's wrangle this fish in. Let's reel this fish in. Let's get this boat right on the right track. And they come out and lay an egg in the first period, outscored 2-0 to go into the first intermission. And it didn't get any better from there. Yeah, the Lightning scored to make it 2-1, which has been one of the most consistent bright spots all season long, and Braden Point, who is having an absolute incredible career season, 45 goals, just tallying up that career high in goals in a season for Pointer. And then it just, after the Brassard goal, you know, you start to see Ottawa kind of pull away. Yeah, Sergachev scored that power play goal in the third period, and you know, the Lightning start to sort of get it together, or start to seem like they're getting it together. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. And the Lightning end up losing, of course, this one 7-2. And just, I don't get it anymore. I don't get it in terms of what exactly is the mindset of this team. Because I'm sure the conversation, and I hope the conversation was had. Because, as we all know, the Lightning will face off on Saturday in Boston against the Boston Bruins, who I assure you saw this game or saw the score and are looking to just pile on to Tampa. As we all know, over the last couple of years, these two teams have no love lost for each other. And all of you should be very concerned, as I am, about Saturday. I actually saw a Lightning fan tweet to me saying that they weren't even going to bother watching the game because they had better things to do. And what they meant by that was that they didn't want to see the Lightning get absolutely embarrassed or make fools of themselves like they did tonight against a lesser foe. Once again, the story, the ever boomerang of a story, because that's what it is. Just when we think that the Lightning are past something or over a certain habit finally, or kicking it, it comes right back around to bite them in the butt. In this one, going into this one, we discussed, we basically begged, almost wished it out into the universe, that the Lightning needed to get off to a good start. This was probably on a scale of 1 to 10 of being a must-win. 0, no sweat of any type of must-win. 10 being absolute must throw all the cards, take all the cards out of your sleeves. This was probably a 7. And they go out and they just get absolutely embarrassed. And I tweeted it, if they go out and play against Boston like this, the way they play tonight, what do you think is going to happen? And this was just a game that was just mixed together with just coming out of the gates, not wanting to take control. Something that we see almost on a nightly basis with this team, digging themselves a ditch to start the game. And I don't want to hear that they're slow starters anymore. I don't. Or they're getting to feel they want to get the feel of the game. Ottawa certainly got the feel of the game early on. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the excuses anymore. And on the other side of that, we don't hear anything new from the Tampa Bay Lightning. I was planning on watching Cooper's post-game presser. I'll watch it after I record this episode and talk about it on tomorrow's episode. But the fact of the matter is, we've been hearing the same song and dance from Jon Cooper all season long. The same song and dance from the players on this team all season long. And it's, the stereotypical mantra that we hear from every team across the NHL for the most part. There are a handful of teams that actually, throw each other out under the bus now and then. But the Lightning all season long, when they've been playing bad or when they've been just making these mistakes that we've been seeing them make from game 1 to now, game whatever we're at now, late March, those two things shouldn't be happening. But what they are saying is reset, bounce back. And I've said it multiple times on the show. I'm tired of it. Whether it be the coach, whether it be the players, somebody needs to take some responsibility or address it. I had a listener tweet out to me just seconds before we started recording, telling me that not only did Jon Cooper not even address the big issues with this team, but it was a very brief and short press conference. Now, I will obviously watch it afterwards and see for myself what exactly was said. But I threw the idea out there on Twitter, and this might be all smoke, no smoke, or there might be some not fire, but there might be some small embers brewing. Has Jon Cooper, I don't think he has 100%, because we'd probably be having a different season right now. But is he starting to lose the dressing room? And I think that's a fair question to ask. Jon Cooper has been with the Lightning for close to a decade. All right. They've done it all with each other. They have lost. They have won cups. They have won back-to-back cups. They've been through a worldwide pandemic. Okay, he has done it all with this team. What he's done for this organization as a coach cannot be understated, cannot be overstated. I'm sorry. But it happens in every sport, and it happens with every team to a certain extent with a coach or a manager, whatever, who is in a position for a very long time. Eventually, those speeches, eventually those words are going to sound like static on the television. Now, hopefully, I'm just being a little bit over zealous in my assumption that something might be going on or lack thereof, because at the end of the day, Jon Cooper can't sit there at a press conference, even though I don't think he's going to say anything. But Jon Cooper can't look every Lightning fan in the eye right now and say, we've been talking about this all season long, about fixing this, about fixing that, when clearly we haven't been seeing any sort of resolution or any sort of moving on point for this team. Whenever they lose a game, or if it's a close game, or if they make mistakes throughout the course of the game, it's the same thing over and over again. And I said it on the national show tonight, and this goes back to coaching. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and blame the leaders on this team because they follow suit from the coach as well, even though they are their own individuals to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, if you're not making adjustments, and the same thing is happening again and again and again, and this team looks like a 60-point team instead of a 90-point team, and we're a little over double digits away of games until the postseason. I mean, the postseason starts in a couple of weeks. And this team looks not at all ready or prepared to go to a 7-game series with the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, if tonight was any indication, or if this was supposed to be a confidence booster for Lightning fans, I'm sorry, I didn't see anything to be excited about. Whether it be the play itself from the players or the decision, which we will talk about in the next segment, from the coach, the guy who we're supposed to trust with every single decision. So a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack from this game, because you know there's games where you just got to say to yourself, okay, we could mail this away and forget about it tomorrow. But it comes to a point, people, where you could only say that so many times. And I haven't seen anything that has changed my mind that this team is going to improve anywhere near what it needs to be for a potential playoff run. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, I want to talk about our friends at Indeed. Now, listen, the job market is a mess right now. It's hard to find the right person. And just like with sports, if you don't have any players on the field with the right skills, whether it's a breakaway speed or elite playmaking ability, you're going to have a tough time winning, just like the Lightning are right now. The same goes for your business. Indeed is a fast, simple way to make sure you're hiring MVPs when your business is starting its championship run. Nothing matters more than finding and hiring the best team with Indeed. You have the power to build a dynasty by hiring more MVPs faster. Now, I love Indeed because they have their straight to the point, this absolute great feature called Instant Match, where as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your job description. You can invite them to apply right away. Plus, you only have to pay for quality of applications that meet your must-have requirements. So start hiring now with $75 sponsored job credit upgrade at your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer valid through March 31st. We are on the 23rd, so get cracking on that. Get that free money right there. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon and claim your $75 credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And Indeed, we are still talking about just In all my 3 years that I've been hosting this show, in my opinion, and this is not recency bias, probably the worst loss. Because it's one thing to lose a close game, a heartbreaker in the last couple of seconds. It's another thing to go out there and just, especially when you're trying to just do something as simple, and this should be something as simple for this team that has a ton of experience. Yeah, there's some new variables here and there with new guys here and there, but those guys follow suit. Nothing that hasn't been done before. But you're supposed to get ready for the playoffs, not trying to figure it out to get back into the right groove where you look like the Lightning look like they look like a lottery team tonight instead of a playoff team. And something needs to change. And this was just ugly all around. Like I said, the Lightning got off to a slow start. We saw a little bit up in the energy in the second period, which is great. But my thing is, this is something that we've seen all season long. The Lightning go into the first intermission after a slow start. They pick it up after God knows what was said or done in the locker room during the intermission. They come out. They're laying bodies on the board. They're swarming around the puck. The puck possession was phenomenal. They end up scoring a goal. But my thing is, and I tweeted this out, there's a difference between a team that is playing well and a team that is playing desperate. And the Lightning were playing desperate. I'm sorry. When you look at that, and I'm not saying that the players weren't trying all the time, but that energy boost that you saw coming out of the gates in the second period, it was disingenuous. That's really all it was. And I know that some of you may not agree with that, but I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. And we spoke about it on the last show, and I think the one prior as well, changes, lineup changes as well, future changes. If you want to go back and see what I mean by that, you'll see in the last episode. But we could change all the things we want. I mean, we're past the point of trying to get guys to come in, new players to come in and help out. We're past that point. What we got is what we got, and we got to figure out how to utilize that. Jon Cooper has to figure out how to utilize what he has in front of him. And that's what separates good coaches from great coaches. And Jon Cooper has shown in the past that he is a great coach. But tonight, I have to say, I was very disappointed in him. Because let's face it, going into the third period, the Lightning, yes, they closed the margin with the Sergachev goal, making it 3-2. And then you have the Brandstrom goal. Tkachuk scores twice. And then you have Watson for just the seventh nail in the coffin. My thing is, what I want to know from Mr. Cooper himself is, why are you pulling the goalie with over 6 minutes left? I mean, I don't care what the deficit is, and we could pick and choose with the whole analytics thing, pulling the goalie at this point in time, pulling the goalie at this point in time. And yeah, if you want to be a slave to the analytics, that's one thing. But and even if you want to say, well, I thought it was going to give our team the best opportunity to go out there and win or get things going. My answer would have been to that. Did you see how your team played in the first two periods? I'm sorry. Yeah. Sergei made the game a one point deficit. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was the second Tkachuk goal. You're down by 3 at that point, and you pull the goalie with under 6 minutes left. I need to know the thought process, because at that point in time, if you're down by 3 goals, at least go down with some grace. Don't turn it into this desperate attempt to try and grab air, to capture air in your hands, okay? And energize your team with it. Go there, play for pride. Don't let anybody get hurt, and just work on the little things. Work on your game. Don't try to make decisions like you're trying to win Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. That point passed. That point in time was gone for this game to be won or try to be won when Kachuk got the power play goal 13-11 at 13-11 into the third. I'm sorry, that was just flat out embarrassing. And I heard the call, obviously, with Dave Randorf and Brian Engblom, and I heard the call on the Ottawa side. If go back, but and I know I love Dave Randorf. We all love Dave Randorf, and it's his job to also be positive and not criticize. But go back on if you could go back to the footage, you could hear almost the slight the moment of confusion to a certain extent in his voice about them pulling Elliott. And I get it. You have the face-off also on the other side of the ice. But you mean to tell me it's a confidence thing, I get it. But at the same time, come on. The Lightning at that point, just work on the little things. Go away, play a little respect to round out the game. Maybe you get one, maybe you get two. If you put it within two or one goal, that's when you pull Elliott. Maybe under 3. See, I'm not a big fan of pulling the goaltenders early on unless it's a 1-goal deficit. That's just me. I like sticking to the old school. Under a minute, with trying to tie to the game, you pull the goaltender, go for it. Knock yourself out. 3-goal deficit with over 6 minutes left. I don't know how you justify that. And to come out post game and like I said, I haven't listened to the game just to the post game press conference just yet. But if our listeners who tweeted out to me right before I recorded, and I'm sure they're not misleading me. If that's any indication, if it was short, sweet, not even addressing the big problems, you have to kind of look at Cooper a little sideways. I know he has a lot of credit under his belt, a lot of things that he's accomplished, but even the greatest players and the greatest coaches are allowed to get a little bit of criticism here and there. Tonight was not a good look for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was not a good look, and I hope that going forward, the only way to go for this team is up, because that was just a very, very just not a good look for Tampa Bay. So we'll talk about the rest of the schedule for March and the rest of the season to round up the show, because, I mean, it can't get much worse, right? It can't. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, I want to hear from our friends at America's #1 sportsbook, and that is FanDuel Sportsbook. And they are the best sportsbook in America for a reason, because new customers right now get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. If your first bet doesn't win, just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. And they have bets on everything. If you put money on the deficit to be like this, 5 goals in favor of the Ottawa Senators, I want you to reach out to me with a screenshot of the bet slip so I know you're not pulling my leg. I want to know. I want to see it. And if you did, I want to know what the odds were, because you definitely made a lot of money tonight, because I don't think a lot of people really thought that was going to be the outcome. But for those who didn't, don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. And yeah, I mean, I'm still digesting this. I'm still digesting this just an abomination. Like I said, I have been hosting this show from its inception in February of 2020. And that's a little over exactly 3 years. And this is the worst I've ever seen the Lightning lose a game. It was not only embarrassing, it was just not a good look. It was embarrassing for the franchise. And that's the one thing we could always hang our hat on with this franchise, this team, is that they are a prestigious franchise. And if you don't think they are, they are. They are the model for a lot of teams around the NHL and how to run your franchise from top to bottom, from ownership to front office, coaching staff, all the way down. And we didn't look like a prestigious franchise, but all you could do is truck forward. And I hate using this, but a clean slate. Tomorrow is a new chance to succeed. And the Lightning will have a chance, possibly. And I said it, I think I alluded to it on the last episode. But if the Lightning lost tonight, which they did against the Ottawa Senators, and go in and win against the Boston Bruins, I think that's going to be more upset. I think I'm going to be more upset about that. Because you mean to tell me you go from losing to Montreal, losing to Ottawa, and you beat the best team in the NHL at home? Make it make sense. But the question we're asking ourselves right now, as we're continuing to digest this ridiculous loss on the road, and with a not so easy schedule just ahead, it can't get much worse, right? Right? I mean, you look at the schedule going forward. Like I said, Ottawa, Carolina next Tuesday, Washington, who has started to pull it together. I mean, we all know. I mean, Alexander Ovechkin kills the Lightning, so let's just talk about that. Let's not even talk about that. And then you get the Islanders, who people don't forget about how the Lightning beat up on the Islanders those 2 years in a row in the Eastern Conference Final. You got the Rangers, another recent Eastern Conference Final opponent. And then you got Ottawa right again on the 8th of April. And then you wrap things up. You're back in Ottawa in just over a week, 2 weeks. And then you come back home against two Atlantic Division rivals, one that you're going to see a week later, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Detroit Red Wings. And the question we're trying to ask ourselves and answer, can it get much worse? And quite frankly, if the Lightning continue to play like tonight, yeah, absolutely. I think it could get a lot worse. I think that the morality, if it isn't already at a 3, I think it was probably at a 6, maybe at a 5, depending on who you talk to. For me, it was at like a 5 going into tonight's game. So I was like, you know what? At least we're not going up against Boston now. At least we have a game to kind of get our act together. But after what we saw tonight, and then you pull that whole, because I would be shocked if this isn't talked about for the next 2 days until we go to Boston, about Cooper's decision to pull Brian Elliott. And for the record, Brian Elliott deserved a better output of performance in front of him. He did everything he could to keep the Lightning in this game, and he just didn't get any help in front of him. And I thought the goals, maybe like one or two of the goals he gave up were like really, really good goals. But yeah, maybe if the Lightning put out a different effort in front of him, a better effort all around, defensively, offensively, consistency, we would probably be talking about a different outcome in this game. But yeah, I don't think it gets much better. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for some of you that upset about that or wanted me to say different. If the Lightning have not shown me anything, especially if they win on Saturday. If they win on Saturday, that's great. That's great. That's always great beating Boston, but it doesn't mean anything. But what I'm saying is that this team needs to display some sort of playoff mentality. So if you go out, you play a great game in Boston, and then you just mail in Carolina and Washington, and then you got two very tough New York teams coming up on your radar, I'm sorry, it could get a lot worse. I don't think we're going to see a loss as bad as what we saw tonight, but in a different way we can, where it might feel a little different. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Seriously, as we try to make sense of the team that it calls themselves the Tampa Bay Lightning, we got to do some soul searching as Lightning fans, as teams, as people that follow this team, as people that see this team play every single day. And there's no carryover. There's very minimal carryover. And what is the one thing that you need in a best of 7 series? You need carryover. And we don't see it. We haven't seen it all year. Maybe, like I said, maybe the month of January, but that's pretty much it. I said you take away the month of January from the Lightning, and I said this on the national show. Comment below because I want to know what you think. You take away the month of January, Lightning are a wild card team. Plain and simple. They go from a 90-point team to maybe an 85, 83, around that. And that also depends on, Florida, Ottawa, Detroit, more so Florida. I think if Florida has a better season, we're having a way different conversation now. And we're having that conversation a lot earlier in the season. So let me know in the comments below what you think on our YouTube page about this loss. How you feeling? Check in with me. If you want to check in with me personally, go to my Twitter page at DenkyDank, DENKYD8. That's the number 8 NK on Twitter. DM me, tweet to me. Tell me how you're feeling. We're going to get through this. I don't know if the Lightning will, but I know we will as individuals who follow this team. And we'll be back tomorrow as I will discuss the post-game presser by Jon Cooper when I finally watch it. And all the news that I would hope would trickle out from players about how they felt about tonight. So in the meantime, that's been it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I'll talk to you in the next one.